Hello, and thank you for viewing this presentation, SAP HANA in the Cloud. In this session, we will discuss the benefits for hosting SAP HANA in the Cloud and how you can gain time to market, time to value with a hosting service. So the very first thing here is understand that when we're deploying HANA in the cloud, it's about accelerating and elevating your deployment success, gaining faster ROI. And you're going to do this by leveraging the expertise of, HANA experts, people that have been through other HANA projects, and so you don't have to suffer the trial and error experience of taking on a new technology. Also, you don't have to worry about purchasing hardware or the deployment risks of locating a server and connecting the server and those other operating system complexities that you may not be familiar with in your particular computing systems and infrastructure. So you don't have to worry about box sizing or future scaling variables. In other words, how much do you think your data set size is going to grow over time? When you're hosting an application in the cloud, such as SAP HANA, the hosting size and the data domain, that becomes the challenge or the problem for the hosting provider. It's not yours to worry over. Yours is just to use the hosting service, transmit or deliver the data, and any data growth that occurs, then the hosting provider is responsible for the hardware infrastructure. So there's no shipping delays, and you can expect optimal price performance configuration because your hosting provider will have a contract or an arrangement with a hardware provider, and so you can expect them to get better terms for their hardware configuration than what you can probably achieve. There's certainly lower operational complexity. Your IT infrastructure doesn't have to accommodate a new platform. There's no hardware maintenance to worry about. There's no application software patches. And for SAP HANA, being a relatively new technology, its use is being expanded. There's new features being added to it, and SAP is coming out with upgrades on a fairly consistent basis, and so there will be an upgrade process that if you're hosting it in the cloud, it's not a topic that you're going to need to be concerned with because you can rest assured your hosting provider would do that. Also, backups, failover, disaster recovery, those processes can be optimized and that burden placed on the hosting provider. Also, you certainly have a reduction on the burden on your IT staff. I mean, we all know how much work we're asking our undermanned IT departments to do now. In a hosting service, obviates the need for recruiting or training of additional HANA resources or trying to add yet another project onto an already crowded, project schedule and prioritization schedule. So what this means is there's no need for either you or your organization to become technical experts on HANA. And then, there's the other benefit of hosting in the cloud, and that is it changes the budgeting equation from CapEx to OpEx. Instead of having to lay out, a fairly sizable sum of money for the HANA server, could be, depending on the size of the server, anywhere from $50,000 to, $250,000 or even higher dollars, you can instead convert that to operational expense so that you pay a much smaller monthly fee that can be cash flow driven or cash flow expensed and support your HANA investment in that manner. So these are all very compelling value propositions for why a hosted solution makes sense for a lot of people. So what we want to do here is kind of explore a little bit further into, those three options. Option 1 on-premise, option 2 co-location, and option 3 hosted. And as you can see, it goes across a spectrum from left to right, where you favor the CapEx on the left and you favor OpEx on the right. And so you can see with the hosted column, it's about 30 to 45 days to implement a hosted offering. Whereas with the co-location, it can be anywhere from 60 to 120 days. Whereas with option 1 on-premise, it can be considerably longer, 90 to 180 days. And the factors or the elements that start to accumulate in those days are these various rows here on the left, where you have a HANA database. Well, it's common across all three columns, or all three models, that you have to purchase the SAP contract. So that's in the 30 to 45 days. Then you have HANA support. So that is the SAP maintenance contract for the applications. You got to make sure that that's embedded in there. So it's part of the SAP purchase. And then here's where we start to get into differences, is the infrastructure. The first two require you to purchase and build out your infrastructure. Okay, so you don't have that with hosting. This is where you start accelerating your ROI on your HANA investment. Infrastructure support and admin. It's one thing to build out the infrastructure, but it's another to put into place that infrastructure support, your staff and your administration. Get your maintenance contract set up, your SLA for the people that are going to be maintaining the environment. You don't have that time problem in the hosted solution, so there's another form of acceleration. Data center build-out. So you've purchased the infrastructure and you've got your maintenance or your contract staff organized, but now you got to actually put it in the data center and build out your data center. Well, there you've got more time involved. And again, under the hosted option, you don't need that. And last but not least, over time you have your data center operation, where you got your wrench, your power, and staff. While that isn't necessarily, that doesn't affect time to ROI, but it certainly does affect your total cost of ownership, because it's a little known secret that the number one cost for hosting happens to be power. Staff is a significant power cost, as is rent, but power, the power consumption for the servers, the networking boxes, all of those various electronic components, power is not a trivial expense. So, last but not least, we can talk about, from your point of view, the client's point of view, some of these decision factors. Your availability of capital. Again, we're going to move from left to right here. Option 1 on-premise, option 3 hosted. If you have high availability of capital, then you can probably lean to the left and buy your HANA server outright. If capital is scarce, then you're probably going to lean to the right and have it hosted. If you expect significant growth of your HANA, of your data set size going into HANA, or you really don't know how big it's going to be, let alone know how much it's going to grow, then there is a fair amount of uncertainty there, so you're going to be leaning more towards the hosted. If you want this implemented right away, you're leaning towards hosted. If you have limited data center space, okay, then you're probably going to lean towards hosted. If you have limited data center staff, you probably lean towards hosted. If your systems administrations, and the difference between data center staff and systems administration is data center takes care of the hardware, the cabling, the networking, the telecommunications, all of the things below the OS layer. Systems administration staff takes care of all those items above from the OS layer up, the operating system layer. And so if you don't have a lot, you may have a lot of data center staff, but you may not have a lot of systems administration people. And so if you're tapped out in that area, you may wind up leaning towards the hosted solution. I like this one, the proximity to users. If you have a highly distributed BI environment, and BI stands for business intelligence, then you're probably going to start considering, how to get all those users connected that are in London, and Houston, and Singapore, in Miami, and Mexico City. What kind of reliable infrastructure can you put together so that all of that BI user community has the same user experience and has the same sort of low-level latency? That would be a challenge if you are trying to do this on-premise and you use your own networking skills. It's possible, but it's harder to do. Hosting providers, that's what they're expert at. And then last but not least, the mission critical, the need for redundancy. Hosting providers just offer you all sorts of options for moving the data in case one network layer or channel or branch goes down. In case one facility suffers an earthquake, they can bring that up or have it already running in a separate facility in a different geographical location. So, the need for redundancy is another area to support your hosting option. So with that, I'd like to thank you for listening to our presentation on HANA hosting and the various value points for that and why you should consider hosting as a viable alternative to on-premise solutions. My name is Frank Dravis, and I'm the Director of SAP HANA Global Sales and Services. And so if you want to know more about Utopia and our SAP HANA services, you can follow that link there on YouTube, and also you can visit our website and gain and download a white paper on SAP HANA. And look for us on YouTube for more videos on how we can help you with both the HANA ecosystem inside of SAP and BI reporting in general. Thank you very much.